Tonight, part 2 with actor and writer Sugith VARUGHESE talking Transplant, Mission to Mars, Brian De Palma, Dennis Hopper, Elwy Yost, Lester B. Pearson, and a shirtless Simu Liu. We threw in Lester Pearson for the sex appeal. It's Up All Night with Bob.
You should consider applying for the chief resident position.
Thanks.
You actually wound up graduating with a fine arts degree from my alma mater. We were both York U grads. But
no, I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis.
My apologies.
My graduate degree in film was from York University.
Your graduate degree was from York. But did you have a year of pre-med at U of Saskatchewan before that?
I did pre-med and drama, double major.
Any of that ever come back to play when you got on the Transplant set?
You know, Transplant is my 25th TV doctor.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, you know, the Indian doctor, but
right.
Not on TV. So it isn't so much the pre-med, but, you know, my dad was a doctor. He was a surgeon. He was a neurosurgeon.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
And when I was in my 20s, he asked me, because I was in film, he asked me to videotape couple of procedures that he did that were quite unique. So I got to go into the operating room with him and scrub up and film these little procedures for him. So I got to see how he worked in an operating room. I got to see him on the job. And it was very different than how I knew him at home. And as my dad, you know, I got to see him as this professional. And so that I've ended up realizing that I channel a lot of that when I'm doing operating room scenes on Transplant.
Oh,
I mean, he was a much nicer guy than my character is on the show. Yeah, so, you know, I don't do the personality stuff, but just little things, you know, the way he would talk to nurses, the way he would run the operating room, just the way he would talk about the process of operating. You know, it's kind of like being a mechanic, you know, and like, oh yeah, let's move that one right there, you know, and then, you know, somebody's life is in your hands. Right. But so yeah, I think I channel a bit of him when I do it.
Number one, what's your go-to Toronto convenience store?
It's right across the street. I live in the Distillery District, and it's called Green Panda.
Green Panda. Oh, okay. Oh, you're in the Distillery District.
Yeah.
You play a doctor on Transplant on a scale of 1 to 10. I guess we sort of know the answer to this, but we just talked about what's your comfort level when inside a real hospital? Are you nervous?
In a real hospital?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a 4.
Okay, interesting.
In a TV hospital like our Transplant show, I'm a 12.
You're a 12. You know,
I don't want to catch any. You know, with COVID protocols, our hospital set is safer than any hospital you could walk into now.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
right?
a real hospital.
What's your go-to snack at the movies?
Oh, a large with butter layered.
Favorite all-time Canadian Prime Minister?
It's a toss-up between Pierre Trudeau and Lester B. Pearson.
Oh, could be a Pearson man. That's interesting. I like that.
Well, here's the reason. When we first came to Canada, when my parents came, Pearson was, well, Diefenbaker was prime minister, but my mother was so proud when Pearson became prime minister, because she said, we never dreamed we could come to a country where the prime minister won the Nobel Peace Prize. And he also gave us the flag. So yeah. I have a soft spot for Lester Pearson.
There's a good argument there for Pearson. If you had to move to the U.S. tomorrow, and it had to be New York or LA, which one would you prefer?
Oh, that's a tough one. I probably would go to LA. Just if I'm going to leave Canada, I might as well go someplace warm. But you know, if I have to move, you mean like I'm moving with having won the lottery too, right?
Yes, and you've got a 10-picture Marvel deal. Oh, by the way, while we're on the conversation on Marvel, let's see if we can't let's get some clickbait here. Any good Simu Liu stories?
Well, first of all, Simu, I never got a chance to do a scene with Simu on Kim's, but you know, I saw him all the time, and the thing that I remember was that every time I saw him, he had his shirt off. Now, not because he was trying to show off, but it was just one of these things. He was just coming out of the dressing room, no shirt, just going into the dressing room. He was always his shirt off. and it got to the point where it was a running joke, and he got a little, annoyed with me with that running joke. But that's my biggest memory of working with Simu. Was I saw him a lot with his shirt off.
Listen, if I had Simu's body, I'd probably walk around with it.
Well, exactly. I mean, nobody was complaining.
Number 7. What's the most nervous you've ever been on either stage or a set?
I'm never nervous. Never. I really like when I walked onto. I shot the very first scenes shot for the Transplant series, and you walk onto our set. It is a massive hospital. That I asked the crew. I said, "How big is this thing?" And they said, "Well, we were prepping yesterday, and we walked. We checked on our Fitbits, and we walked 13 kilometers." And we've had TV writers come onto the set, and they've written articles. We've been on the sets of House, ER, Grey's Anatomy. This one's bigger.
I'm not surprised because I was not to interrupt, but I was watching one yesterday, and the walk and talks go on forever.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's huge. Everything works. Everything works except the plumbing. If I'm scrubbing up, we got to get buckets of water to do that. There's obviously no plumbing in the middle of the floor. But other than that, everything works. It's this massive thing. There's 80 extras playing patients, doctors, lawyers walking on the. I did not ever feel nervous. I felt I'd come home. And I always feel that way on the set of a movie or a TV show. I feel that way when I do a play, walking into a rehearsal room, walking on stage. I never feel nervous. I just feel like I'm at home.
Here's a trivia question for you. We'll see. I think you'll know this. You appeared in the 2000 film Mission to Mars, directed by Brian De Palma and co-written by the son of which famous Canadian film lover and broadcaster?
Graham. The son of Elwy Yost.
The son of Elwy Yost. Yes, Graham Yost. Did you ever get to know Graham? Did you ever meet Graham?
Never met Graham, but I met Elwy. I was on his show.
You were on Elwy Yost's show?
Yeah, but not the Saturday night of the movie show. He had another show. It was a half-hour talk type show, and I was a guest once.
Oh, that's so fabulous! I was such a fan, even in my teens and 20s when I could have been was going out to clubs and bars and being a young person. A lot of that was dependent on what Elwy had on Saturday night.
Yeah,
if there was something really good, I would stay home.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Saturday Night at the Movies. My name is Elwy Yost.
He was the Criterion Channel before there was. He was Turner Classic Movies before there was Turner Classic Movies. He was 100%. The education for film for an entire province.
And absolutely a delightful on-screen presence and
off-screen too. Like he was just a really sweet, funny, delightful guy. I remember being on the show, and it was sort of around the time shortly after that movie was on CBC that he invited me on the show.
Oh, okay. So sort of early mid-80s.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Well, and of course his son, just for clarification, his son was Graham Yost, who among other things wrote Mission to Mars and also wrote
Speed,
most famously. Yeah. Bonus question: which famous composer composed the score for that film?
I know this. Give me a hint. I know this.
Spaghetti westerns.
Morricone, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I didn't know that until I looked it up, but that's actually making me kind of want to go back and revisit Mission to Mars.
Well, I'll tell you about that movie for a second if you got the time.
Yeah, I do.
First of all, I auditioned for a part, but not the part I played. It was just like a generic part, and the casting director said, "Okay, come back tomorrow." Okay, so I come back the next day, and I walk into the room, and Brian De Palma's there, and I do the same thing, and Brian says, "Oh, pretty good," and I leave. I don't hear anything for 6 weeks, and then my agent says, "Well, they want you for this part in Mission to Mars." I said, "Great. We don't know when it is, so they're buying out 2 weeks, and it's going to be sometime within this 2 weeks." So I go see the movie The Sixth Sense. This is 1998, I think. And in the lobby of the movie theater, there's a poster, Mission to Mars, coming May 1999 or whatever it is. I said,
Right.
I'm in that movie, and I haven't even shot that movie yet. So like a month later, phone rings, and it's the AD from Mission to Mars. He says, okay, you need to be on a plane to Vancouver, which is where it was being shot, tonight. You're shooting tomorrow. I said,
Oh, wow.
okay, can somebody send me the script? Because I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, there'll be the script at your hotel. So I get on the plane. And of course, back in those days, they flew you first class. It was great. So I fly first class to LA or to Vancouver. And I've been bought out for 2 weeks. So I assume I'm working for 2 weeks.
Right.
I get there and I read, and it's like it's 5 a.m. and I'm reading the script and I'm playing this character, the second Capcom, and he had like 2 or 3 little scenes. And then I look at the call sheet, and this is the first time I find out Tim Robbins, Gary Sinise, our two-time Academy Award nominee, Armin Miller-Stahl.
Yeah.
And it looks like my scenes are with two-time Academy Award nominee Armin Miller-Stahl. I went, oh, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
This is the morning I'm about to go shoot, right? So I go to the set, and, they fit me, and then I'm on this set, this big space station and all this stuff. And I'm shooting these scenes from this movie, and Brian De Palma's there. And I realized very quickly that if Brian De Palma is moving the camera, it's a minimum 15 takes for no reason other than he's going to shoot at least 15 takes, probably more, but at least 15. If he doesn't move the camera, it's a maximum of 5 takes.
Oh,
regardless. So I'm shooting this, it's like day 2 or day 3, and I'm shooting this scene with Armin Miller-Stahl, two-time Academy Award nominee.
Unbelievable actor.
And he's not moving the camera. And Armin, and it's Armin's close-up. And after take 4, Brian De Palma says, "Well, sounds good, Armin, moving on." And Armin Miller-Stahl, two-time Academy Award nominee, says, "Yeah, but I didn't cry," because it was a very emotional scene. And De Palma says, "Well, it's good for me." So Armin Miller-Stahl, two-time Academy Award nominee, looks at me and goes, "So, if you watch the movie," like I went the first day because I was going to go see the movie with friends that night, and I didn't know. I wanted to make sure I was in the movie. So I go at the 1:00 show, and the credits start rolling. Gary Sinise, Mission to Mars, starring Gary Sinise, Tim Robbins, no Armin Miller-Stahl. I'm going, holy shit. If Armin doesn't have a credit in this movie, he's not in it. I'm not in it.
Right.
But I'm watching the movie, and then I hear my voice. I hear Armin's voice, and there we are on screen. I'm going, we're in the movie. And all my scenes are there. So then I go, holy shit, Armin Miller-Stahl, two-time Academy Award nominee, does not have a great agent who couldn't get a head credit on this movie. If you watch the tail credits for the movie, he doesn't have one. He's not in the tail credits either.
That's so weird. So he's uncredited.
Uncredited. Yet he was, in the movie.
Do you feel like, did his agent, was he peeved that he never got to cry? Maybe his agent had him take his name.
To quote Armin Miller-Stahl, two-time Academy Award nominee. The other story I have is we were shooting this scene where De Palma was moving the camera, and the shot started with a close-up of my hand on this crying girl's shoulder, and then the camera pulls back and picks up Gary Sinise and the other stars of the movie doing this long walk and talk through the space station for 2.5 minutes. So I asked the actress, "How did you get the job?" And she said, "Oh, I cried for Brian De Palma." And I said, "Okay, look, I've been on this movie a couple of days. I'm just letting you know he's moving the camera, so it's going to be a minimum 15 takes. So you might want to pace yourself."
Right.
And so she goes, "Oh, no. I'm method. I've studied. I can do this." So sure enough, take 1, beautiful tears, crying, perfect. Take 2, beautiful tears, crying, perfect. Take 3, 4, 5. By take 18, De Palma comes up from behind the camera and he looks at her and says, "You might need the drops." And he walks past her. I think by take 22, she went, "Oh, I can't." This is now 2 hours later. Yeah. Take 22, because it's 2 minutes for take plus, 5 minutes to reset.
Right.
Take 22. She says, "I can't do it anymore." They come rushing, put the drops. I think we did 25 takes of this stuff. If you watch the movie, the shot starts just after my hand. She's not in the film.
Oh, no.
But unlike two-time Academy Award nominee Armin Muller-Stahl, she gets a credit.
She
Crying girl. There is no crying girl.
That's amazing.
That's Hollywood.
Yeah, I really kind of want to relook at that movie now because I haven't seen it since it came out, and I do love Brian De Palma for all those reasons, and he never stops moving that damn camera. And I mean, there are some of those shots are just unbelievably iconic. If you've seen, have you seen Snake Eyes with Nick Cage?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he does lots of, like the thing. I mean, he's a real cineast type filmmaker. If you watch Mission to Mars, there's a kind of, there's not a replica. There's a space vehicle that looks like the space station, not the space station, the spacecraft in 2001.
Oh yeah,
it's the same. It had the same mechanism as the one in 2001, where they could rotate it in the soundstage, and then the camera was on a gimbal, and it would stay. So the actor would stay vertical, but it would look like the actor was going upside down as the thing went upside down. He was so respectful of Kubrick that he made sure that rotating set piece was 1 foot shorter than the one in 2001.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that story.
If you walked into the galley part of this space station set, because NASA was like a consultant on this movie, and Stoney, what's his name, a NASA astronaut was in the movie with me. I met him. If you go into the galley, I was bored, I had nothing to do. I'm walking around the galley. I open the drawers of the galley, and every drawer is filled with NASA space food. Like they could have been cat treats. Nobody's ever opening these drawers, but they're NASA space food. Beef stroganoff, suitable for minus 34 degrees, in space under pressure. Like, it's unbelievable.
That's unbelievable. I was watching just a couple of nights ago. I put on 2010 for the first time in a long time. Have you seen 2010? You make contact with Roy Scheider, and I've always tried to it's got to be the third or fourth time I've seen that movie, because I'm always trying to figure out, why it doesn't really entirely work. And it's not the story, because the story is actually quite interesting, which is that
I thought so.
They're going to go back and what the hell went wrong and everything. But there's something so kind of pedestrian about the way that it unfolds, particularly given that it's a sequel to, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. I mean, I think what's disappointing about 2010 is that it just feels like it could have been directed by almost anybody. Whereas,
that's exactly right. I think you're exactly right. That it really goes to show you what a great director can do to material. Kubrick elevated that material, because on the page, if you go back in time, like in '68, there was actually a published screenplay-ish version of 2001 that, it was like a combination of the short story, The Sentinel, and
I think I've read it actually.
And you read it, and it's okay, but it's unremarkable. But you see how Kubrick elevated that material off the page into something iconic, and then Hyams, he doesn't do that with 2010.
What's your go-to comfort meal?
Well, it's spaghetti with meat sauce.
Pretty close. I think that would be in my top 5, certainly. You ever is the old spaghetti factory still down in
it is not
Front Street?
It is there. I mean, there's that strip of bad bars that climax in the old spaghetti factory. I don't know if it's still there anymore.
I'm not sure if
that strip is still there.
Yeah. Well, it became a lot more sort of gentrified and youthified
it became a lot more upscale than
but when I was a kid, and there was none of those were there, but there was the spaghetti factory and of course the organ grinder next door. Bed sheets, tucked or no tuck?
I'm a tucker.
I'm a tucker as well, but it depends on the temperature. Star Wars or Star Trek, or neither?
Well, it's very interesting. I was on The Expanse.
That's right.
Season 5, and Mission to Mars, and so I crave kind of completing my trifecta. by getting either. And I've auditioned for Star Trek, because both Star Treks, not Picard, but the Discovery and Strange New Worlds are shot in Toronto. And I have read for Discovery 3 times, and I have not got on. So now I'm sort of, well, if they don't want me by now, but so I'm veering towards Star Wars now, professionally. But as a fan, I couldn't choose.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Well, you never know. I mean, look, it looks as though we're going to be swimming in Star Trek and Star Wars series until we.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to get on both by the time before I die, because otherwise I'm missing pieces in my.
Yeah. Don Knotts or Jerry Lewis?
Oh, Don Knotts.
Nobody ever says Jerry Lewis. Worst experience with a famous actor? You don't have to name them, but if you want to, go ahead.
Well, I wouldn't call it that unfair, but I once acted with Dennis. Who's the guy from Apocalypse Now?
Martin Sheen. Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper. I once acted with Dennis Hopper, and I was very keen, and I jumped my line.
Oh.
And Dennis Hopper let me know. And I'll never forget Dennis Hopper letting me know that I jumped my line, not once but twice. So I wouldn't call it that he was being a bad person, but he was not happy that I was jumping my line, not once but twice.
What was the film?
It's called The Spreading Ground. It was a movie. Here's one of these Hollywood stories. There was this young guy who was directing this movie called The Spreading Ground. It was a real interesting script. It was about a serial killer, and Dennis Hopper is playing the cop, and this young guy cast me, and it was going to be his first feature, and he was so keen. I get to the set, and he's not there, and the DOP was a very famous DOP, is directing the film, and that guy has never made a film. I've never heard of him since. I mean, and then my other story like that, which makes you show you how fragile this whole business is. I was once in a pilot for ABC called Toe Tags, and there were 2 unknowns, and it was a really funny premise. It was about these 2 slacker Beavis and Butthead types who the only job they can get is working for the Seattle coroner as morgue attendants. I played the Seattle coroner, and they solved the murder by accident every episode.
Oh, okay. Right.
So there were these 2 unknowns playing the 2 leads. And, we had to go to ABC in LA and test and all that stuff. And it was a huge thing. I got cast. They got cast. And we shot the pilot. The pilot gets sent to New York. They spent $2 million on this hour-long comedy pilot, procedural murder mystery type show. Mm-hmm. They send it to New York for I think ABC made like 30 pilots that year. And the producer calls me that morning, and I said, what happened? He said, ABC didn't even look at it, because they said, if it's a comedy, we're only doing half-hour comedies this season. So they just burned it. Now, one of the 2 guys was Barry Pepper. The next job he got was Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, wow.
The other of the 2 guys never acted again.
There you go. It's
showbiz.
A fickle business, isn't it?
It's showbiz. I mean, to survive in this business is the achievement. Like,
yes.
I get what Simu's done. It's incredible, but that's like winning the lottery. But just surviving is an achievement.
Biggest hope for the future?
For me personally, or for life in general?
For you, for the world, as magnanimous as you want to be.
For me personally, I'd like to get to direct more, and I'd like to get one of my shelf full of pilot scripts made. Yeah. For me, for the world, I want America to stop being stupid and crazy.
Yeah, that would be nice. There've been some mildly encouraging signs the last couple of weeks, but
but
crazy's always coming back.
Crazy's got a long history of coming back to bite you in the ass.
It really does. I can't thank you enough for taking some time to chat with me today, man.
Rob, it's been a pleasure and a joy. I'm so glad to reconnect with you after so long. You haven't changed a bit.
Oh well, God bless you. I from the waist down, it's a pretty bit.
Well, you know, we're doing a pants optional show as it is.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. As long as I keep a desk in front of me, I'm okay. But that's what and Transplant season 3 premieres. I think it's something like September 12th. Am I right?
September 23rd.
23rd.
New night and time in Canada, Fridays at 9. I don't know when it's going to be back in the States. Fingers crossed it will, but they haven't announced yet. But it's definitely coming back for season 3, and it's seen in a lot of countries around the world too. So that's good.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Rob.
Hey now, thanks for watching. Please do hit that subscribe button. We're off next week, but we're back in September with a brand new season. It's Up All Night with Bob. Thank you very much. God bless you, everybody.